So, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. My name is Katie Lebeds, and I am so honored to have you here today to talk about Voice of the Customer 2.0, turning feedback into innovation. So, for those of you that don't know me, I am the president and CEO of Learning to Lean. I am based out of Hortonville, Wisconsin. I'm a Lean Six certified master black belt and certified project management professional and emotional intelligence coach. I'm also an author of three different books, and I've been doing lean and continuous improvement for about 20 years. And it's something that I'm extraordinarily passionate about. And it's so cool that concepts like these that we're going to talk about in class today can be used in any industry for any situation, personally or professionally. So let's go ahead and get started with today's topic. So we know that our world is changing, right? We look every day and something looks a little bit different. So instead of us asking, what does the customer think, which is something that we would traditionally ask, we're now asking, what is every interaction trying to tell us? So, what is every interaction trying to tell us? And now, more than ever, we have so many ways or different ways that we can interact with our customers. So before it was just going to brick and mortar, right? Maybe we started doing some online things, and now we have social media, we have websites, we have apps on our phone. We have so many different ways that we interact with our customers. And our customers don't just speak through surveys anymore. And if you know anything about surveys, you know that statistically speaking, we don't really get fantastic feedback on the surveys. And the response rate is traditional pretty low. So customers now speak through purchases, cancellations, reviews, clicks, waiting, complaints, compliments, and silence. So now we have a wide variety of avenues in which we can get our customer feedback. And one thing that I want to make sure that we talk about right away is that we are talking about internal and external customers. So our internal customers are those people or processes that are quote unquote next in line after we do our work. So who do we hand that data off to? Who do we hand that part off to? Who do we give that drawing to? Or who do we give that information to? So internal and external customers. And now we are speaking a wide variety of different languages. So when we just had maybe one or two ways to be able to get this feedback, now we have a variety of ways. And silence is feedback too. So I think sometimes people are like, no news is good news. And that's not necessarily true. No news can be that they're really upset and they're going to ghost you and never come back again. It all depends on the customer. And I know all of you, just like me, have gone out to a restaurant someplace, had a good or a bad experience. We are typically not the type of folks that would go online and just trash somebody for a bad experience going out to eat. We are the people that will go online and say, this is the best food that we've had in a very long time. I highly suggest you go there. Or I have a friend that owns a portable pizza company, and we're there helping to promote them, right? But we are also the silent partners too. So we are the people that if it wasn't a great experience, we aren't going to tell 17 different people or 17,000 different people. We're just not going to go back. And like I said before, we're talking about internal and external customers. So that's important to keep in mind. So what's traditional voice of the customer? And we talk a lot about that in Lean and Six Sigma, that we need to make sure that we have gathered the voice of the customer so that we can really understand the problem that we're trying to solve. Now, traditionally, there could be an annual survey, and some of us know the annual survey as the Net Promoter Score, or NPS. If you don't know what NPS is a traditional survey that would go out to your customers usually once a year. And in that survey, the priority question really is, how likely are you to recommend our company to another associated company or a friend, et cetera? So how likely are you to suggest, hey, you should go work with them. Go to that supplier. They're really great. And the higher the score there, the better. So traditionally, voice of the customer, we send out a survey. We analyze the data in Excel. I don't know if you've ever had that experience, but my heart just skips a beat when I have a survey traditionally to analyze, and there is a comment section, right? So any of you know that the comment section is super hard to analyze before now. So before you had to dump it all in Excel and you had to try to be able to understand all of these comments. And, when you send out surveys, you're just like, can we please leave that section off? It's so hard to understand. And then we would do a report. So send the survey, analyze it in Excel, generate a report, and then what happens? Nothing. Nothing happens. Traditionally, nothing has happened. And that's where employees and customers get really frustrated because the thought pattern is just like any of us would have. Why are you asking for my opinion if you're going to do nothing about it? Right? So we need to be able to come up with a better way to do this so that when we do gather the data, or we do look at the patterns of behavior, that we do something about it. So let's look at the next generation of voice of the customer or voice of the customer 2.0. So what does that really involve? It involves continuous listening. So not just that one survey a year, it involves continuous listening. So we're always listening to what our customers have to say or not say. We are looking for patterns in the data, and we're going to talk about using AI for that in a few minutes. We're looking for insights. So not only do we see patterns, but really what is jumping out at us from an insight perspective. Something that may be different, something that may be new, something that may be has to do with the time of the year or something like that, that maybe we never noticed before. Voice of the Customer 2.0 is also about innovation, and we'll talk more about innovation in a few minutes. But innovation is really figuring out how to do something different. And then, of course, measurement. And if you've been in any of my classes, you know that I continuously talk about we need to be able to measure and make sure that when we're doing our measurements and we're making changes, that we understand through that measurement if we're making things better or worse. So Voice of the Customer 2.0, the next generation of gathering this information, again, is continuous learning, patterns, insights, innovation, and measurement. Now, when we're talking about VOC or voice of the customer, there's actually 4 voices. So let's look at the 4 voices. So first one is voice of the customer. And we traditionally know that if you've been to any classes, if you've studied any material, you've heard of voice of the customer before. And voice of the customer is saying what our customer wants, right? And hopefully they can express it. It's always interesting to go to different industries and talk to a wide variety of folks and really ask them, do you think you know what your customer really wants? And generally, the answer is no. So that's kind of interesting too. There's voice of the employee. So what employees see every day. So we want to be able to capture their voice. What are they seeing? What are they experiencing? I was helping a client and I had some person say, the operator said that the machine doesn't sound right. That's the voice of the employee, right? That operator is with that machine at least 8 hours a day, and they're working at least 5 to 6 days a week. They know what that machine sounds like. And when they say the machine doesn't sound right, that means that they have something to be able to say and they're identifying the problem ahead of time. We have voice of the process. So what the data says. So what is our data really saying? Now we talk about this in our classes too, where we say, or have a tendency to say in the past, our system is slow, right? And really when we say a system is slow, we need data to back that up. That's the voice of the process. So what we really want to say is yesterday, it took me 1 minute to be able to open Outlook. But today it's taken 20 minutes and it's still not open. That's the voice of the process. That is the data that we need to be able to understand and analyze that voice. And then finally, voice of the business, which are the strategic priorities for the business. Now, as you can see, this is a Venn diagram, right? So all of these are touching each other. They all interact with each other. In voice of the business and strategic priorities, I think the biggest challenge that companies have nowadays is to make sure that their team members really understand this. Right. So you should have priorities that mean something to your team members, and they should be able to, number one, articulate it. And number two, they should be able to understand through their behavior and their actions whether or not they're making those strategic priorities better or worse. So again, that's all of these things tie together. So what happens when one voice gets ignored? So one of those voices gets ignored. So we're not listening to that one voice anymore. We don't see it, right? It's the blinders on a horse. So you may hear the customer loves it, but employees hate doing it. That's not sustainable, right? The customer just thinks, oh my gosh, this is absolutely fantastic. This is the best thing ever. And every employee in the facility is just groaning because they're like, oh my gosh, this process is such a pain in the butt to actually do. So it's not sustainable. I worked for organizations before where they're like, we'll take anything. A customer comes to us with a drawing on a napkin and we'll make that happen. And anybody that works in manufacturing groans when they hear that because they know that that's going to be a beast of something to be able to manufacture. Next one is leadership wants it, customers don't, which means we're a failure, right? So if the leadership wants it and customers don't, which I absolutely have seen, it's a failure. So sometimes there are perceptions of what our customers want. And sometimes we have leaders that, talk to other companies or go to conferences or see things online. And we're like, we must do this. We must do this. And at the end of the day, if you went back to your customers and say, do you really want this? And the very specific question of, does this add value for you? If they say no and you continue to do it, that is a failure. Employees have great ideas, so voice of the employee. Leadership never asks, and it's missed innovation, right? So employees have great ideas, leadership never asks, and that's missed innovation. That's why when we do Kaizen events and we do projects like a DMAIC or a DMADV, that's why it's so important to have the voice of the employee there. The people that actually do the work, that have already great ideas to solve these problems. I always tell my customers, look, you already know how to solve your problem. I'm just there to expose the genius in all of your team members and be able to have that solution rise to the top. So again, employees have great ideas, but if your leadership team doesn't ask or doesn't listen, then it's going to be a missed opportunity for innovation. So why does innovation die? Why does innovation die in some organizations? And I've definitely seen that in some organizations where there was innovation at one point and now it's met its demise. People think innovation dies because of budget. So people, sometimes the perception is we can't be creative, we can't be innovative because that always involves buying something. And every time we ask for something, leadership says no. And it's really not about budget. It really is about people in organizations not listening or listening too late, right? Where an operator says, this machine doesn't sound right, and nobody pays attention to them. They ignore it and they produce tons and tons of parts that are scrap or have to go to rework. Companies only listening to loud customers, right? The squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? So they only listen to this one loud customer who may have valid reasons or maybe just having a bad day. Again, going back to ignoring employees and collecting data they never analyze. So I've seen that in some organizations. I like to ask companies, tell me about your metrics. And sometimes there's an eye roll or just kind of a very disdained look on their face, right? Some companies I go to, they have tons of metrics that they do nothing with. And then other companies don't have any, or they have very few and barely know what to do with those. So Collecting data and never analyzing it or doing anything about it is where innovation dies too, because people that they lose their abilities, or not necessarily their abilities, but they lose that passion for innovation. And then rewarding firefighting instead of learning. So, oh my gosh, this person's doing such a great job, and you're just like, oh, they're just running around and putting out fires. And those fires come back again. We all know that. So the ones that get rewarded for firefighting, we know that they have not included a permanent solution to that problem. So that problem's going to come back again, and people may or may not remember it. And then that person gets accolades again for fixing it, right? So innovation does not equal invention. So sometimes people hear the word innovation and they picture Tesla, Apple, Google, right? I mean, that's pretty normal, right? But that's what we're looking at right now. We're like, oh my gosh, Tesla's got so many cool things, right? Apple, even though they just raised the prices, Apple has cool things, and of course Google does too. Wouldn't Google be a cool place to work? But innovation can be, and again, going back and thinking lean, innovation can be something like a simpler form. Can we just have a easier form to be able to complete? Shorter wait time. That would be fantastic, right? We all have gone to some place, whatever your state or country calls the place to get your driver's license, right? And how can we have a shorter wait time when you get to go and have your driver's license done? Some of the ways that they are innovating is ability to do some of this online right now. A clearer email. And some of you have heard me talk about the fact that statistics show, or studies show, that most people don't read past the first two sentences of an email. And you have 2 seconds basically to be able to capture that person's attention and have them respond to your email. So if you had a clear and concise email, that's innovation too. A faster quote. I use a quote service called Proposify. It's hard to say. And that allows me to do quotes very quickly. It also allows me to be able to monitor the quotes that are being done, so I can see who opened it, when they opened it, how long they read it for. A better onboarding process. Some companies, believe it or not, don't have an onboarding process. So something is better than nothing. I have other companies right now. I have one organization that their whole focus for this year is a better onboarding process for new employees, right? Because statistics will show that if you have a better process for onboarding, you're more likely to retain that employee. It could be a cleaner website. It could be an easier hospital discharge. It also could be safer manufacturing process. That's innovation too. How can we make our folks safer? And for any of those of you that work in manufacturing, you know that we always say we want everybody to go home with all their appendages. So how can we make it a safer process? Or maybe a friendlier invoice, right? What's a friendlier invoice? How do you define that? Well, usually for my customers, it's I send an invoice and there's a link for them to pay immediately. So they are able to pay with one click. So that's helpful, right? That's helpful for you, whether you're in business or also personally. So we're going to do a quick activity here. So using chat, finish this sentence, and I'll finish it too. I stopped doing business with a company because, so if you could go into chat right now, I'll share mine, but I stopped doing business with a company because, and finish the sentence. Now, as you guys are thinking about your message, I will tell you mine. So I have a Samsung Galaxy something phone, and I have a Samsung Galaxy Pro 5 watch. And I love my watch. I asked for it for Christmas several years ago, and my husband got it for me for Christmas. And it's been fantastic. I like it because for one of the options on it, number one, it can call my husband automatically if I fall off my horse. Number two, when you go into activities, Horseback riding is one of the options. Like no other technology a few years ago had horseback riding as an option. And I keep track of my miles when I ride. And it ties completely in with my phone, right? So I love this device. And after it's probably 5 years old now, after a few years, right, they start to fail. It's just normal. So I'm like, I need a new device. So I'd like to go and buy it. So I go and scope it out. I pick out the one that I want and I go to check out. I put in my information, right, my address. It picks up with the search, right? So it automatically puts your address in. We live in Hortonville, Wisconsin. Our mailing zip code is 54944. I hit next and it said invalid city. Invalid city. How can it be an invalid city? Well, make sure it didn't have any spaces after it. It's spelled correctly. Nothing weird's going on. So I used the chat feature. Of course, I got AI and it said, put in another zip code. Why would I put in another zip code? How am I going to get the package if it doesn't come to my house? So this has been 6 days of tickets back and forth to Samsung saying this isn't working. And their response is clear your cache, open a incognito window, and try again and make sure that you're signed out of the device. No, I bought a Garmin yesterday. So our feedback on chat is they didn't reply quick enough. Stop doing business with a company. Yes, I completely agree with you, Miranda. Belligerent posts on Facebook shaming municipalities for not using their services. Yes. So what process failed? So the failure in this is customer service, right? They didn't reply quick enough. They didn't solve my issue at all and gave me some strange answer, like put in a different zip code, which means I would never get my product, right? The process, their customer service process failed, right? And then belligerent posts on Facebook is another customer service aspect, right? So finding hidden voice of customer, right? So the ones that we easily see are surveys, complaints, and reviews, right? So we go on Google or we go online. I've been traveling a lot this year, very blessed, traveling a lot, going online, looking at Facebook, or pardon me, Google reviews for hotels, going on TripAdvisor and things like that, looking at hotels. But the hidden costs or hidden voice of customer things are customers who never complain, like me and my husband. Abandoned carts. I have an abandoned cart for Tractor Supply. I know for those of you that know me well enough, you know that I'm a frequent flyer there or at Fleet Farm. So yes, I have an abandoned cart there. Customers giving up. So if they didn't reply quick enough, you're going to give up. Confusion or workarounds, repeated questions, right? So we have what we see for voice of customer, but then what also we don't see, what lies beneath the surface that can really be damaging to us, our brand, and our future. So how do we turn feedback into innovation? So it's really taking those comments. So whether those comments are done on a survey or online or verbally, looking and taking that in a funnel perspective here, looking for themes. And then through the themes, we look for patterns. And then we look for root cause or causes. And from there, we come up with ideas on how to solve our problems. That's pretty cool to be able to look at data and come up with ideas. Now, keep in mind, some of you have heard me say this, it takes people time to come up with ideas. So if you just send them an Excel file and be like, we're going to meet in an hour to go over this, you're probably not going to get a lot of good ideas. That's just not how our brains work. Our brains need more time to think. Then go through a pilot, right? So practicing PDCA, going through a pilot and having innovation. And that appears when we're going through that pilot and we're like, this isn't working. We got to come up with something different. And guess what? It's okay to ask what other companies do. It's okay to look for that. It's okay to go online and say, how do other companies solve this problem? What do other people do? Or belonging to specialized groups, like we have our Lean Alliance, or belonging to SHRM, or belonging to AME, and meeting with those people and saying, hey, how are you guys solving this problem? And then, of course, making sure that we're measuring to make sure that we've understood through this pilot and innovation that we've made things better and not worse. And of course, if you're familiar with it, this is really DMAIC thinking. That's what it's really all about. So, how do we get a feedback to innovation cycle? First of all, we need to listen, right? So, gather every customer signal. So, uh, think about surveys. I challenge you that if you are doing surveys, think about what value that survey is really bringing to you, what your response rate is, and maybe asking your customers what they would prefer instead. Decoding, so looking for patterns instead of individual complaints. And then prioritizing what issues affect the value the most. And we have to tie value into this. It's voice of the customer, but it's also like value from the customer too. And then innovation. So redesigning the process, not just fixing today's problem. So not just firefighting, but being able to say, how can we work on this, improve the process as a whole? And of course, validate. Did the customers actually notice? Um, I would notice if I went on that Samsung website and it took my mailing address and zip code properly. Yes, I would notice if they made an update. And then learn. So feed new insights back into the system. And so again, it's that continuous improvement loop. So innovation isn't always a new product. So sometimes I think we get intimidated by that word innovation, right? Because we're thinking, oh my gosh, we have to be like Albert Einstein and figure this all out. And that's not the way it has to be. Innovation could be faster response times. So I have a customer that I worked with that they make specialized machinery, and they told their external customers that they would respond to them or acknowledge them, customer order acknowledgement, within 8 hours of receiving an order. And these orders are for millions of dollars. Their process, when they brought me in to help them, actually took 8 days. And we were able, through a Kaizen event, to improve that to be 4 hours. Will that customer notice? Yes, they will. They are going to notice that they get a faster response time. Easier ordering, right? So we know that from any place that you may have gone, either online or if you go to McDonald's, right? I don't go to McDonald's very often, but I went to McDonald's a few weeks ago. And when you walk in, you can order from a person or you can order on the screen. So for some people, ordering the screens are huge, right? They're almost as tall as me. So ordering on the screen might be easier for somebody than speaking to a person. So just you have to understand though what your customer's definition of easier is. Better communication and less waiting. Customers will definitely, and employees will definitely notice that. We already talked about simpler forms. Simpler forms, I'd also go into also electronic forms. So when you're having new employees join your organization, are you sending them packets of paper to finish? Or are you telling them, hey, you can go online and do this too? Better onboarding, improved packaging. For those of you that may be around the age that I am or a little bit younger, definitely you would remember the cases that cassette tapes came in, and they were a pain in the butt to get out. If you bought a cassette tape or even a CD at the store, I think they thought because they put them in like these plastic things, like the cassette's this big, right? But if you put it on its side, the actual packaging was this big. And I swear I can't believe that people didn't lose their fingers trying to get those out of there, because I don't know if they were worried that people would put the cassette tapes down their shorts or what, but it was horrible packaging. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google it. New digital experiences, new services, that's innovation too. I was working with an organization that had a whole setup like Shark Tank, and they challenged their own internal teams to come up with new services that they could deploy, and then better employee experience, right? And that's what we all want to have. So keep in mind, though, that when you hear innovation, do you automatically think of technology? Because it's not always technology, which comes off funny coming from somebody that worked in IT for a long time. So we also used to cringe because we would say not every project is an IT project, but not every innovation is technology. So Toyota didn't become innovative because they invented robots. They became innovative because they continuously improved their customer experiences through thousands of small improvements. And if you've been to any of my classes, you know that I talk about this is not, innovation is not, or continuous improvement is not about boiling the ocean or solving world hunger. Innovation and continuous improvement is about making small incremental changes in your organization. And sometimes that can be really intimidating for people. And I was talking to a group this week and I said, what happens if you just got 1% better every day? Or you saved 5 seconds worth of time every day, or even 2 seconds worth of time. Think about the change that could be driven within your organization for the good by just making those small incremental changes. So, another question for you. Using chat, think of one process that frustrates you. What is one improvement that would completely change your experience? Tell me one process that frustrates you. That could be ordering food, getting healthcare, renewing insurance, returning Amazon items, especially after Christmas, airport security, hotel check-in, paying bills. What's one thing that frustrates you, and what one improvement could completely change it? So as you're thinking, I'll share mine with you. The one process that frustrates me is it can be in certain circumstances, hotel check-in, right? So sometimes that can be a very frustrating experience. I always feel like I'm the bag lady because I've got my bag with my laptop, I've got my suitcase, and I normally have another bag because I'm always bringing water or something to drink with me. And I feel like I have 18,000 bags and I look like I'm moving in there for a week when I'm only going for a day. And now on the apps, right? So I'm a Hilton member. I know a couple other people on here are too. You can use the check-in on the app. So, and you can use your phone to be the key card to be able to get into your hotel room. So that's one improvement that had really changed my experience with hotel check-in. That was fantastic. One thing that we go to our pharmacist quite often between two people that are on medications. It seems like we're at the pharmacy every other day. And I was talking to the pharmacist about it, and they said it would be great if we could somehow sync up both of our medications so that they are all refilled at the same time. So I don't have to make 6 trips back and forth to Pick and Save to get our medications, rather than, just having one. And we talked about that. So in chat, we have ordering food when they are waiting for me to pick up, and then and give the order. I need to think in a calm or order the first thing I read. Oh, I get that, right? So you're trying to figure out what you want, and sometimes you feel like you get a little bit rushed, right? So absolutely taking a little bit of time to make sure that you look at that. Even right now, let's face it, going for getting gas, right? So getting gas can be really frustrating right now because of the cost. So how do we work our way around that? Well, you can use an app called Gas Buddy, right? So Gas Buddy will approximately tell you what the gas fees are or charges are for the local gas stations. I can tell you right now, if you live in our area, Costco's the cheapest. So, that's one thing that you can do. Calling customer service for companies after hours. So, oh boy, you have a dentist appointment on Monday morning that you can't attend. They're closed on Fridays. No call service. Left a message and hope for the best. Yes, that's very frustrating too, right? And there should be a way, and I was thinking about that also, kind of, that's funny, Miranda, the other day, I was thinking like, if we had to have an after hours dental emergency, right? Besides going to the emergency room where there's not always a dentist available, could we actually call and get our dentist and have him be able to help us? He's a very nice man, but I don't know if they have after hour emergency services. The only ones that I know of that have that are for animals. So our vets have after hour, and this is something that I appreciate. Our large animal vet has after hour call service, and it's a person. So you talk to a human, and they know the questions to ask, and you get a call back within between 5 and 20 minutes. So that's something that they have definitely improved. So If you've come up with a new way, if you've thought in your head and didn't want to share in chat, that's okay too. You just innovated, right? So as we come up with new ways to be able to do things at home or at work, that's innovation. And again, sometimes that involves technology and sometimes that does not. But AI is changing voice of the customer forever. So use AI to analyze 10,000 survey comments. It's not you looking through a huge Excel file anymore. We can use AI for that. AI can pick themes, pick out emotion. It can pick out urgency and emerging trends. AI can pick out, based on customer feedback, it can also pick out changing expectations. AI can pick out common language and online reviews. So it'll go through and look at online reviews. And it can search through customer emails and service tickets. Now, I need to make sure that we are all talking on the same page here. Please only use an AI agent that you pay for anything I just said. Okay, so don't go on to ChatGPT, the free version, and upload anything of your customer information, your survey information, etc. If you upload that data, which would be considered proprietary to your company, in a open AI agent, which means you haven't logged into it or you haven't bought it as part of the Microsoft platform, then it is free. That information is now out in the universe for anybody to be able to access. So you need to be very careful about that. So I personally use ChatGPT and I have a login. So yes, I do pay the monthly fee for it, but I personally would not upload any of my, excuse me, financial data. However, some of the questions that I ask, I really don't want that to be out there to my competitors. So make sure whatever AI agent you're using, that you're using the paid version and not the free version. So AI doesn't replace curiosity, it accelerates it. So you can go in there and look at a wide variety of different things. I will say there is a book called The AI Leader. And I've been listening to it, and one of the things that I've learned a lot from that book is how you are putting in the prompts. So I have learned that I need to change my prompts. So I now put in acting as my strategic partner, and then I'll put in whatever question I have. And at the end, I'll say, you can ask me up to 3 questions or 4 questions, or feel free to ask me questions to clarify. And that's really changed the way that I have interacted with AI. And it's really been able to help me, I think, to get better answers to the questions that I have by just phrasing it, act as my strategic partner. Now, of course, I own a business too. So, but 3 questions every leader should ask. So instead of asking, are our customers happy? Ask, what frustrates them? What frustrates our customers? So instead of looking at kind of an overall, right? Are all our customers happy is kind of an overall picture, right? Kind of like a side buck. We're focusing in on one aspect of it. What frustrates them? Instead of asking, what are they buying? Ask, what did they almost not buy, right? Or abandoned cart, right? What are they almost not buy? Instead of what are employees doing wrong, ask, what is the process making difficult? Or what in the process is making it difficult, right? And I think sometimes I see the last question a lot, like, why can't we do this right? What's wrong with this? Why can't it be repeatable? Why do we have different results on the same, 2 machines that are the same, we get different results? Why do we have different results on different shifts? Instead of asking that last question, what is the process making difficult? Or what is in the process making difficult? So I have a challenge for you for next week. Don't send out another survey, right? Don't send out another survey. And even if you don't send out surveys, just have one conversation. Ask one customer, internal or external. If you could wave a magic wand and change one thing about working with us, what would it be? And I always ask folks, When's the last time you went to your internal customer and said, what can I do to make your job easier? It's kind of the same question, right? So internally or externally, ask somebody verbally, okay? A verbal ask. What could I do to make it better? Right? So whether you're talking about an external customer or an internal customer, that's a pretty powerful question. Now, yes, I recognize you will get some smarty pants answers, but weave through that and strategically ask a person. Then ask why. So again, we're asking this question of if you could wave a magic wand and change one thing about working with us or with me, what would it be? Then ask why. And then ask why again. And why again? Some of you know where I'm going. Innovation usually appears around the third why. So innovation or that idea, so I want you to think of innovation as an idea, not necessarily always technology. It's going to show up in the answers to those questions that you are having with your customer, internal or external, right? So innovation is definitely there. So the organizations that will thrive tomorrow won't be the ones that collect the most feedback. They're the ones that learn the fastest from it. So organizations that thrive tomorrow won't be the ones that collect the most feedback. They're not the ones with the most data. They will be the ones that learn the fastest from it. So if you'd like to download this little template that I created here for VOC Innovation Canvas. So innovation, again, doesn't always begin with a big idea. So more often it begins with just a better question sometimes, or a deeper understanding of your customers and the discipline to turn insights into action. So that's what we do to help organizations every day through lean and continuous improvement, coaching, strategic improvement, continuous improvement events, transformations, and training. So if you're interested, this doesn't cost you anything. I don't spam you. You can scan the QR code and download our template here. And this could be just a good prompt for your challenge to be able to complete next week. So just to refresh you, our services are lean leadership assessments, lean champion training, leadership coaching and site assessment, lean Six Sigma training, including white, yellow, green, and black belt, problem solving, value stream mapping, 5S, etc., and project management, consulting and training, and Kaizen events. So thank you for your time today. I greatly appreciate it. And if you have any questions, please let me know. If you would like a member of your team to see this video, please go to our Learning to Lean channel on YouTube, and you will see all of these free sessions that we have every month uploaded on YouTube. So don't forget to check our website for the free session for next month, and I will see you soon. Thanks for being here.